Hey folks, looks like you all liked my last Billy Strings video, so here I am making another one. It looks like Billy liked the last one too. He dropped a comment when someone reposted the video onto his Facebook fan page. Shout out to my boy Steve. Steve takes Skype lessons from me. He sent me the screenshot of the event, and Steve was very excited. Steve is a big Billy Strings fan. Sorry Steve, I may have just outed you to Billy. So this time we're doing While I'm Waiting Here, and we're working off the album version too, instead of a live version, although maybe I'll reference a live version, who knows. And I didn't just write out the breaks. This time I actually wrote out all of the changes too, but I'm only going to be teaching the lead breaks in this video. If you want to download the free tab and follow along or see all of those chord changes for the rhythm guitar parts, you can pop over to my website, lessonswithmarcel.com. While you're there, you may notice a lot of other transcriptions and a bunch of fiddle tune arrangements, some merch, and a place to sign up for Skype lessons if you want to join the Skype lesson crew like my boy Steve. Anyway, first things first, let's talk about some scales and techniques that we're going to need to play these breaks, and then we'll break down the intro, the outro, and the actual guitar break. Alright, so time for the bone structure, just like we always do. We're in the key of D with a capo on 2nd fret. We're thinking about 1, 4, and 5. Those are going to be D, G, and A. So let's do a full pentatonic scale for D, and then let's do a 1-octave pentatonic scale for G and A. These are all major pentatonic scales. Here we go. So Billy mostly sticks to those notes, and that's it. He gets away from the pentatonic sound a little bit when he slides into some thirds, and he honors some weird bass notes, but that's about it. So instead, let's look at some arpeggios of D major, D sus2, and D sus4 that will come back to haunt us later. If you don't know what a suspended chord is, it's pretty basic music theory. A chord is built off of the root, the third, and the fifth. Now, if we take the third, and instead of letting it be a third, we make it a second or a fourth, we create a suspended chord. It doesn't feel minor, it doesn't feel major, it feels suspended. Here are those arpeggios. The last thing is movable double stops, and we saw that last time in our Billy Strings transcription, where he had part of a G chord, and I believe he had the 3rd and the 5th, and as he slid it up, it became the dominant 7th and the 5th. Now, he's doing that same thing, but this time the double stop is part of a D chord, and as he slides it up, it becomes part of an A chord, so I'll show you that now. All right, moving along, let's break down and also listen to each of the lead sections now. All right, so we really just have 2 sections to break down. The intro and the outro are basically the same, and then we have the actual guitar break. So first, let's look at the outro because it ends with a finality. You get a nice ending chord. So let's do that first. Here's me playing the outro. Remember, the intro and outro are similar, so you're going to see the same thing again, but with a slightly different ending. Here's the outro. Alright, outro break, here we go. To get started, we're walking into this G note. In the tab, I've written an entire G chord. Whether or not Billy is strumming that entire thing is up for a little debate. I don't think the majority of the time he is. In my performance, I did not strum the entire thing because I had a rhythm guitar player behind me strumming that chord. Moving into the first little round, we get this, which you may recognize as part of our 1-octave G major pentatonic. That takes us into this A note. Once again, on this one, I do think that Billy normally just plays that single A note and not the whole A chord. Maybe sometimes he does. Who knows? Then we get this, which you will probably recognize as part of our A major pentatonic in 1 octave. That is what Billy's thinking over the A chord. Now we get this walk. A very common bluegrass thing to have these walks that move to new chords. Billy's doing kind of a cool thing. It ends with an enclosure where he's walking down all of these. And now we get the A note, which is above our target note, the F sharp, which is below our target note, finally the G, which is our target note. So above, below, here's G. He also does that with a syncopation, which feels really nice. The The line that he plays after that is this, which are all the notes in our 1 octave G major pentatonic as well. He's doing this slide from G to A. It's the same note as our open A string, so yeah, there you go. Also, G to A relative to capo. Don't flame me for that. Over the A chord, once again. Yeah, he's thinking about, he's mostly thinking about the D major pentatonic, but he includes that C sharp note, once again relative to capo, to make it work out and feel like A a lot. As we get over the D chord, he's using all of our arpeggio shapes that we talked about. First we get, there's sus2, there's sus4, sus2, pull off from the third to the second, finally a hammer on with all of these notes. Now to talk about how he plays this specifically, you can see that a lot of these root notes, a lot of that D string is in parentheses, and that's because I can't hear it specifically in the recording. In the live videos, it's hard to see if he's really playing. His hand is certainly keeping the down-up momentum going, but I don't know if he's specifically playing a note right there. He's probably just leaving it blank, and that's what I did. Now, when I get to those last notes in those last couple measures there, I have this. I'm actually playing all of those notes in parentheses. I think they're very lightly ghosted, but you can certainly hear the syncopation in the recording. It ends with that nice strum on that D chord. Depending on which version you're listening to, live or album or whatever, sometimes you'll hear the third in this D chord, sometimes you won't. I personally like it without. Sometimes the third on top of this D chord feels a little flimsy, feels a little out of tune. Certainly one option to end the tune is to hammer it on. That might sound a little cheesy for some of you, but it is indeed an option. Cool. All right, I hope you soaked up a lot of that information because we're not going to be covering all of that again. But here in the intro, just the ending is different. So let's take a peek at that. All right, great. Now as we look at the intro tab, we can see that it's almost identical. Really, everything is the same. The only thing that changes is the very ending statement. So let's look at that. We're looking at the last two measures there. Now I have this. Now he hits the D string twice, and you can hear that in the recording, and that's the big difference right there. Now he strums it out. I know I only wrote that one little thing right there, but he starts strumming and that's what gets him into the verse. Once again, if you want to see all of those verse chord change, the pre-chorus chord change, and the chorus chord change, that's all available in the tabs. It's at lessonswithmarcel.com. Great, now we can look at the actual guitar break. Billy takes a break over the pre-chorus chord changes, and the whole thing is kind of remarkably straight. Look out for all of those G major and A major pentatonic shapes. You're going to be seeing a lot of them, so I really hope that you took that in when we talked about it earlier. Here we go. All right, great. Now let's look at the actual guitar break. Here we go. I see this walk into a G note, just like how the intro started. Now this, that first measure, a lot of you will recognize as the Lester flat G run. And that's certainly what he's doing. As we continue, we get this. This is just some interesting phrasing. Once again, this is all in our 1 octave G major pentatonic. As we move on, what he's thinking about there is he's thinking about the Lester flat G run, but transposed to D. Right? He's created some syncopation there and done it a little bit differently, but there you go. That's how it goes. All right, continuing, we have down, up, and that slide into 3rd fret. That takes us to the next line. Once again, doesn't this look like a G run? Our next measure is the same as before. Almost the same as before. The pull-off is actually reversed. Before, it was a hammer-on from open to 2, and this time it's a pull-off from 2 to open on our A string. As we get to the A chord, he hits our A bass note, and then this is all in our 1 octave A major pentatonic shape. And speaking of things we talked about earlier, we have this double step that he slides up. I know that seems strange, but in this scale, he's kind of outlined a low D chord, which isn't that nice. But we're not over a D chord, we're over an A chord. And if you slide it up, you get more of that A chord feeling. There's the whole chord that we're playing. So this is interesting rhythm, just like the last Billy Strings break that I did. Kind of an interesting thing that goes up there. The important thing is basically that he slides it up, is strumming, and slides it back down and continues strumming. I'm not going to get real specific about how Billy does that. I'm not sure we need to go into too much more detail, but this is what those two measures sound like if I just play through them casually. Cool, as we go to the next section, we get kind of a little cross-picking passage. This is real hard to hear in the recording. I know for certain that the first measure sounds like what he's doing. It sounds like he continues something like the pattern, but I stop hearing the suspended second up top, so I assume he moves his picking down. That explains my interpretation of the next measure. Continuing that through all the chords. Now this C add 9 chord is the first chord that I really hear him strum. You can hear that in the recording. As we move to the D chord, once again, I hear the 9th suspended second or add 9. I hear it up top, and he's definitely strumming that. He walks his way back into that G note. I just wrote this 2, coming back to G. Whether or not he does the full walk, I don't remember. But something to think about. Normally when he's going to that G chord, just like in the opening break, he does that. There you go. All right, great. That's everything. Now I'm going to play you all 3 guitar breaks, one after another, so you can see them all in one place. You can see all the tab, and you can practice them one after another. It's going to be wonderful. I promise. Here we go. Sweet, that was a fun one. Not like too hard or anything, pretty attainable, but it's still like fun Billy Strings language. Anyway, I hope you like taking a lesson from the biggest, baddest Billy Goat in the barnyard. If you like this video, you can do all the normal stuff. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe, blah, 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 blah. You can also go to my website, lessonswithmarcel.com. There I have a bunch of transcriptions. Most of them are free. Some of them are paid. I also have merch on there. Of course, I have all the licks from Jazz and Grass. We release new guitar licks every single day, me and my buddy Lyman. And also, what's the last thing? Is it like, what is it? What's the last thing? Is it, oh yeah, it's Skype lessons. If you want to sign up for Skype lessons, you can do that on my website. Yeah, I guess that's it though. So I'll see you next week. We ring them bells at the crossroads through the valley below.